T-Bait Gang, I know I don't have many of you, but I appreciate any of you that are here right now currently watching this video. If you haven't seen the last Tower God video I dropped, obviously you're here for T-Bait, but I gave a little bit of update on how I'm going to run things a little bit. So T-Bait reviews will be every 2 weeks going forward. So today's will be, a 3 week period since I've been going through a lot the last couple weeks. If you've seen the community post in Discord, you know what I'm talking about. So this is going to be a 3 part chapter review, and then next week there won't be a review, but the following week there will be. So every 2 weeks I'm going to do a T-Bait review, and with that you can also assume that that following Friday is when I'm going to do a stream. So tomorrow there will be a stream, but there will not be one next week. So yeah, I'm sorry, if that inconveniences anybody for content wise or what you guys like to listen to, but yeah, I just needed the time. Life changes like that, right? Anyway, let's get into T-Bait because we got a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. We're covering 181, 2, and 3. So let's get into 181. So we start from where we left off in 180 with Arthur, Tess, and Virion going in to see Cynthia's body in like a dungeon type jail. Um, Virion says to save his place to keep her body, and given that she was kind of murdered in a way where she was kind of out in the open but in a protected area, yeah, you want to keep her in a place that's kind of like that, right, where it's only really one way in, one way out type thing. So when Tess gets there, Tess kind of breaks down, seeing the casket, not necessarily seeing the body, and then she starts to snap on Virion and letting them know, like, why didn't you tell me? I've been doing my best to be mature. You're still treating me like a kid. And Varian like is taken aback, and I didn't expect her to completely freak out like she did, but she has a point. Like, were you going to tell me like what was going to go on? Surprisingly so, Virion isn't the one to take up any arguments with her. It's Arthur. Arthur starts going at Tess in a way we've never seen. So he tells her, like, yo, just because you're out in the field now don't mean you're a mature person. I haven't even given any thought on why Varian waited to tell you. Now, this reaction you're giving is kind of like, yeah, this is why he may have not wanted to tell you. And Tess is like hurt, but she's like, well, like, you get treated like this, and I'm older than you. And Arthur is like, well, you're not me though. Like, that's basically what he said, you're not me though. But she's like, well, you can't expect me to be like, your sister. And I thought that was kind of a low blow by Tess, but Arthur then goes to say, well, maybe Varian, you know what, you were right. Like, there's a lot of pettiness, maybe you were right not to tell her, because if this is how she was going to act. And then he walks off, and she's like crying hysterically, and Varian's trying to comfort her to, stop them from everything. And it's a weird exchange, man. Never seen really Arthur and Tess get into it like that. So, Sylvie kind of harps on Arthur, like, why'd you act like that? And she kind of, she can read his thoughts, and he's really upset about his parents, joining the war, like way more than he let on, right? And then, he kind of changed the subject about Sylvie and, asking her, did she get stronger? What did she do? And, they chat about it, and that's kind of like the end of it. And we kind of move on to actually Gray, and Gray's relationship with the head mistress of the orphanage. They have a conversation about, his influence within the place, his relationships with people, his relationship with the girl Celia, the donations that come out of nowhere, and how they're not going to need money anymore. So you get to learn more about Gray and his influence within the place. Cool build up. I know this Gray thing is going to lead to another thing that's going to kind of affect Arthur. So I'm very, invested in, this Gray character. Now, moving into 182, we continue with Gray stuff. And we see Gray's relationship with all the kids in the orphanage, how agile he is, and then he goes to see Nico, and Nico's telling him about this glove he's creating with microfibers, and how it can like harness ki and like become a really powerful tool. He praises Gray, like for his strength and physical abilities, even though himself he's not capable of that. While this is going on, Celia has an episode, and which was mentioned in the last chapter, that Celia has these episodes where she freaks out with her ki just going out of control. With the glove, Gray actually takes it and actually is able to calm her down. And the flashback basically ends with her calming down, and we flash back into Arthur, who is sleeping in his bedroom and actually gets waken up by Ron. Which is kind of funny because Byron's like, who needs a clock when you got Byron blasting your door down, right? Like a whole lance, right? Weird, relationship between Arthur and Byron. Like Arthur did kill his little brother in a cruel way, but like they're going to war, so like obviously like that takes a huge back seat considering like your whole existence is threatened, right? But with that, it seems like there's going to be some type of ceremony because there's a bunch of maids coming to Arthur's room and they're talking about armor and everything else and him getting dressed. And I'm starting to believe, last week as I read the chapter, I'm like, is Arthur like getting introduced as like a general? Is he going to be made a lance? And we already know what 183 is, and it did confirm that he did get made a lance. But let's walk into 183, right? So with the chapter that released today, all the leaders within the country are there. The elves, the dwarves, and the humans. Curtis and his wife are there, and they get to see Arthur, who they haven't seen in a while. He's grown tall, he's grown stronger. It's pretty cool because they have known him for years, right? Even despite all the things that happen, Arthur is still like an important person. Now, a new dwarven rep appears to represent the dwarves, and apparently he has a relationship with Elijah. He actually raised him. Now, I've already made this known. I don't like Elijah. I think his character and Arthur's character were kind of forced into a friendship that I didn't feel like it was genuine. But we may get to learn a little bit about Elijah's background. I can't say I'm super interested in it, but we'll see what it goes to, right? And then with that, there are lances in attendance. Obviously Byron and Varay's there, and Griffin. Aya Griffin is another elf lance, and her and Arthur have a really weird exchange, and I don't know. Like Arthur shakes his hand, and you can tell that there's something off about her. And like I'm thinking, like I hope there aren't any lances that are betraying the Empire, like the country. It would actually be crazy if an actual lance was working with the ops, but I don't know what the vibe is, but I guess we'll see, right? And then Varay and Arthur have an exchange, and I gotta say, guys, I do not like Varay's design. I don't know if it's the art style. I don't know if it's the haircut. Previous season Varay was beautiful. Loved her. She looks really, really good. But with this, her hair is really kind of fat and not slick and straight. I don't know if I like it. Yeah, actually, I don't like it. But her and Arthur have an exchange about cores, and Arthur's in the mid silver stage, and he's talking about how he has a long way to go. But Varay says, "Well, you don't actually have a long way to go." And interesting, like I wonder how she knows that. Like, if she can dictate that Arthur is closer than he thinks he is, then I wonder if that's something that only she can tell. So they walk out, into huge crowd because everybody's there for the ceremony. A bunch of people are in attendance to see the lances and the general because they're their country at war. So a couple of people are wanting to hear what he has to say. It's being broadcast throughout the country. And they introduce the lances, and there's a bunch of cheers and Varian, very well spoken. And then they introduce Arthur as a new lance, and you love to see it. Now, I don't understand a little bit here because Arthur was literally just like a criminal the last time we saw him. Like, now, granted, he did the right thing, but he did murder somebody cruelly, right? So that was kind of the whole thing that happened there. But to be made a lance, we get that Arthur's like a deep well of strength right now that we don't really comprehend us just manhwa readers. But Arthur is being made a lance, and he seems even confused about it when when he talks to Varian, like, who decided this? Like, why? Like, and Varion's like, well, I didn't want to tell you because, like, yeah, like, let's just do this. Like, you like that, and you're a smart, really mature guy. You're gonna be a lance. So, the chapter ends with Arthur like basically gonna walk up to do a speech, and I imagine it's gonna be a really good speech if it got cut off during the chapter. Meaning that if it was gonna be something like meh, 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 it should have been a part of this chapter, but it's probably gonna be something really deep that we need to hear. So yeah, that's basically it, guys. If I had to rate all the chapters, 181 was probably a 6, 182 was probably a 7, and 183 is a 7 as well. All solid chapters. This is all set up for the war, guys. So I'm not expecting anything massively crazy to happen. Just introductions, just to see who was in the war, just to see who's in the inner circle. All important stuff. So, but I think the test and Arthur thing is really weird. Them being on turns, like even her at the ceremony, she's looking like not necessarily as happy as like his parents and everybody else is. So I guess we'll see where that leads. All right. Stream will be tomorrow, guys. I'll put the time out, so make sure you just catch on to that. Other than that, thank you guys for your support. I'll see you soon.